Hello, good morning everyone. Today I take immense delight in introducing our distinguished speaker. We are privileged to have with us Professor S.D. Muni, Professor Emeritus, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and one of India's foremost expert on South Asian politics and international relations. For nearly 40 years, he taught, conducted, and supervised research in international relations and South Asian studies. Professor Muni served as India's Special Envoy to the Southeast Asian countries on UN Security Council reforms 2005 and represented India's Minister of External Affairs at 50th anniversary celebrations of the Paris Peace Conference held in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. He also served as the India's ambassador to the Lao People Democratic Republic. We welcome you, sir, to our podcast committee. So, my first question actually asks two questions in it. Given the disparate politics and lack of integration in neighborhood, is South Asia a valid category to study the region even today? In continuance to this question, are there any biases or cautionary tales that you would like to flag before one starts to look at this region with a sense of academic inquiry?
Well, I think it's a good question and it must be debated in the universities very intensely. Why I say that? Because the concept of areas and the concept of strategic communities or clusters is actually defined by the most powerful powers. It is not defined by the countries who are in that case. And look at South Asia. We were called India, then Indian subcontinent. There was a time when French and I think Greek historians called whole of Southeast Asia as Indian administered states or extended India or Greater India. Then came Cold War. The South Asia is a term which came during the Cold War. What happened was that the British were sort of advising the Americans. And Americans didn't know Asia at all. The British knew it because of their imperial power. And then the Americans started carving out where can we work well and this and that. And they set up a committee of academicians and they went and this is how it was defined. One example is that what we call Indo-Pacific today was Asia-Pacific.
Yes.
And in Asia-Pacific, India was kept out, which is absolutely irrational. In South Asia, so they called it South Asia, but they included Pakistan into CENTCOM and CETO. CENTCOM is Central Asian Command, and CETO was Southeast Asian Nations Command, which made no sense. And then in 1971, when Americans wanted to exercise pressure on India, they brought in the Pacific Command, not even the Central Command. You know, this shows the mismatch between academic conceptualization, which is also driven by strategic considerations, and ad hoc strategic moves and strategic considerations.
True, sir.
Now, in South Asia, to begin with, when the SARC concept was there, we did not include Afghanistan, which is amazing. We did not include Myanmar, which is amazing. And it's still amazing that we don't consider Indonesia as a part of South Asia. Incidentally, India shares direct maritime boundary with Indonesia. And so also with, I think, Thailand or something was looks into. But they are completely out of our mental map. When we called of India's immediate neighbors, we have this smaller subcontinent which is there. Therefore, I can go for hours together on this very issue. But therefore, I find that it doesn't seem to be the proper term. If at all you are looking for a term, now they have Indo-Pacific. But even in Indo-Pacific, we have strategic fault lines. India doesn't consider Pakistan as a part of Indo-Pacific. And the Americans would not like Iran to be part of Indo-Pacific. And Southeast Asians have their own perspective at all. If at all for convenience in the foreseeable context, if we call it Southern Asia,
Okay.
rather than South Asia, then Southern would, like Southeast Asia, the southern part would come in, and that's where your Indian Ocean or Bay of Bengal is so critical for India. So if you are studying in India, and if you have a strategic perspective, then you better redefine your terms of engagement.
True,
So
sir.
that's my simple answer to your two set questions.
So I totally agree with this fact that we even discuss this in our lectures, that how the terms are changing and they keep changing as per perspective.
No, but we must find out fault with us, and we don't seem to be sensitive to this. We go on using the terms which come in the dominant literature. You know, the creation of knowledge and dissemination of knowledge again has often been a monopoly of the dominant powers.
True, sir.
We taught Hinduism to Southeast Asia when we were dominant. We taught Buddhism to Southeast Asia, China, maybe whole world when we were dominant. So, you know, evolution of knowledge. Now we are going back to history, but that again is, you know, another polarization. It's not a broader polarization, that now we are very narrowly concentrating in strategic matters. I mean, there was a time when some of the Americans said that India has no strategic doctrines. And there was a debate, even in JNU. Some of my colleagues hotly debated, we have no strategic doctrine, non-alignment was nothing. They completely forgot the Chanukyas, the Mughal emperors,
True.
the Cholas, and even the Rajput princes, and above all Shivaji. So, you know, you have these knowledge gaps which are defined and deformed, if you want to say it, by the dominance of who is giving you the terms and conditions of engagement.
So, sir, like we should take the onus of defining our own self and not letting or using the terminologies used by the West.
No, let them use.
Okay.
They want to use it in their interest. Why I need to follow that?
Okay.
Huh? If I still continue to wear a Nehru jacket, why should I go in for what you call the suit and band and ties or bow ties for all the matter? Huh?
Absolutely.
The Chinese don't do it. The Japanese don't do it. The Koreans don't do it. So I don't understand this, but this is maybe 150 years of colonization or whatever else it is. And on the top of it is an academic colonization. Unless you quote a Western scholar, you're not recognized as an academic,
True, sir.
which is unfortunate.
It's exactly what we were discussing today in our lectures. And it's very insightful to hear about these from you.
Come.
So, sir, my next question would be, like, few months back, you delivered a lecture on regime changes in South Asia in JNU. Would you say that South Asia today is more confident or a more complicated region in world politics?
Well, South Asia has been complicated since we were divided. What happened in South Asia was that we were one not homogeneous, but one social integral composition. We had geographical contiguity, we had economic contiguity, we had civilizational and cultural parameters which were there. The partition brought in the political sovereignty to divide them. And others also became far more conscious that we also have a political. So the political sovereignty, which is of course a European concept which came up, and therefore the political divisions started dominating the social parameters and economic parameters. So we had wonderful connectivity with Pakistan before 65. We don't have it now. We have useful connectivity with Bangladesh, even under the British. And we've broken those links in one way or the other. So this is how it has happened. This is one thing. Secondly, globalization has brought in all kind of interests everywhere else. And Cold War covered the whole world to say who suits whose interest. And therefore, intervention of international system could not have been avoided because of technology. Even colonialism was an intervention before South Asia. So you have this kind of an intervention taking place, and today's geopolitical interests are as vital as everyone else. South Asia in particular, and especially the smaller countries, where in the last 2 years, 3 years, you have seen almost earthquake changes of regime changes and all that, are trapped in two explosive components, I would say. One is the internal frustration building up, economic problems. We'll talk about it, and if these problems. And the other one is the geopolitical rivalries. So what's happening is that the implosions which are taking place within South Asia create a very fertile ground for the geostrategic rivalries and competitions to plug in, water it and nurse it, or harness it for their own advantage. So I don't find any major change in South Asia which are entirely internal.
Okay.
And I also don't find any major change in South Asia which is entirely dictated by outside militaries. So my simple proposition is that what we are witnessing is an explosive cocktail of domestic upheavals and geostrategic rivalries, which brings about regime changes. So I would not say whether it is only the external forces which have come, but don't ignore them.
So that makes South Asia a suitable fertile ground for many of the changes and regime changes?
Yes, it is. You are witnessing them.
True.
I mean, India is not included, but Pakistan, the overthrow of Imran Khan government.
Yes.
Imran Khan publicly said that the American Consul General's telegram tells that Americans want me out. And he was voted out of power in the same parliament. And nobody listens to him. Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi and the military junta, which is there. Bangladesh is a big story. Sri Lanka is a big story. And Nepal is now a big story. And people are asking, what will happen in India? This question is being raised. Will we face the same Gen Z uprising? It's not entirely Gen Z, that's what I'm saying, it is a mixture. Gen Z, the forefront. They have taken the initiative. There are frustrations there, but every move is not defined by them.
So, sir, do you have any future predictions or cautions for India?
No, I am not a soothsayer.
Okay.
I'm not an astrologer. I don't make predictions.
But any caution tips for
No, caution is that you identify the forces which are driving the change.
Okay.
And manage those forces, both internally and externally. And if you can't, you will slip down. That's what it happened in the neighboring countries. That's what it happened in Pakistan. That's why I think Indian policymakers must be acutely aware of.
I totally agree with your point, sir. So my next question is that it seems that we are living in a world of global disorder, or if I may say so, regional disorder for South Asia. The Gen Z protests in Nepal reflect just one among many protests and unstable politics happening across nations in our region, including the political upheavals in Bangladesh and some time back in Sri Lanka. What do you think are the significant factors or forces driving these political impulses?
I think my answer is what I have already given you.
Yes.
And I don't think we have time for me to go individually into each country. But in each country, at least in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, there is a clear evidence of the external involvement and internal frustrations and all that. And Nepal is unfolding itself. There are all kind of information is flooded. So we still are in the process of scrutinizing. It's a work in progress as to what happened in Nepal. But these are the two factors which are coming there, and they are the forces which are movers and shakers in South Asia.
All right, sir. So, sir, you have written prolifically on Nepal, a book on the foreign policy of Nepal in 1973, on India-Nepal relations in 1992, and on the Maoist insurgency in 2003. Having observed Nepal's politics for decades, what surprised you the most in the uprising and its unfolding as we speak?
Well, what surprised me is the difference between the outburst on 8th and the 9th.
Okay.
I don't see both are the caricatures of exactly similar forces. On the 8th, you see, is the whole thing starts with a peaceful conference, peaceful meeting by Gen Z, whose target is corrupt leadership and good governance in terms of employment, in terms of people not going out. They had no intentions to hit the parameters of the Republican system. Second day, you find all the attack on the Republican structures. Your parliament is burned down, your central secretary is burned down, your Supreme Court is burned down, your National Bank is burned down, President's official residence is burned down, Prime Minister's official residence is burnt out. Unless somebody is hitting at the Republican system of Nepal, Republican constitution of Nepal, this should not have happened. And the Gen Z who started it movement repeatedly said that we don't want any other system. We want this system to change and perform. But who happened? I mean, if you burn the Republican system, the internal stakes are only of the royalist forces, where the monarchy can come back. Or there are of those forces who wanted a seemingly pro-China regime to get out. And this is a common factor in all the three cases, that the governments there were perceived as pro-China. Exception is Bangladesh, where India also had reservations about how Hasina was dealing with China, but we didn't go to that extent because we knew that Hasina was quite comfortable with India and vice versa. But the Americans viewed Hasina as something unacceptable. So you see a tremendous similarity in all the three, that the governments perceived to be leaning towards China and who have allowed the Chinese to expand their economic and strategic presence in these countries was unpalatable. So they must go. So the beneficiaries, if I or you commit a crime, the police will take us and find out who is the beneficiary of this crime. So look at what has happened in these countries and find out who are the beneficiaries of this crime. And you will get some leads to the answer.
Okay.
We are social scientists, we are not, clinical, you can't say, but this is how my assumption is based on.
Okay. Sir, if I may ask so, that India being the largest democracy, so is it because of their neglect in this region that a lot of protests are happening? Can that be a significant reason?
There is a neglect and there may be stakes also.
True. Yeah.
India did not want Rajapaksas to continue. We never had any love for them. And in the contemporary times, since 2015, India is not at all happy with the communists dominating the Nepali scene. And in Bangladesh, we never wanted Jamaat-e-Islami to dominate. So we are not only the takers of the consequences, but we are also partly stakeholders. We had preferences. Now it's a very sensitive aspect to go and see to what extent India was shaping them or defining them. But consequences are very bad for us. If your neighborhood is burning, you will get smoke and heat, whether you like it or not. Therefore, you need stability there. You need progress there. You also want to have your strategic interests to be advanced there. And India's neighborhood is porous because of the political sovereignty issues. And outsiders are coming in one way or the other. And we never wanted outsiders to come in. But it seems that the Chinese competition is proving rather heavy for us. And it seems that we alone cannot cope with the Chinese economy, which is much, much bigger than ours. We cannot cope with Chinese strategic interests. We cannot cope with the Chinese efficiency of delivering products to the neighborhood, to their neighborhood also, and our neighborhood. And we have had, for the last 10 years, we have had neighborhood first policy. Sounds excellent. But it has fallen flat within months of its enunciation. And for the 10 years, we have been abused in the sense in Sri Lanka by two presidents, Sirisena and Rajapaksa. Both said that Indian intelligence agencies are after us and they are doing something else. Maldives said India out project. Bangladesh had an India out project. In Nepal, anti-Indian nationalism was on the surge. In Pakistan, we stopped talking after 2014 for terrorism. So where is your neighborhood? Your SARC is lying in ICU. We don't know whether it will come out dead or it will come out walking. So it all depends upon that, and let us see what happens. So India has huge stakes, and it is time, which I have written somewhere, it is time that we sat back on the table with the drawing board to redesign our neighborhood policy.
That's a very remarkable observation, sir. Sir, the next question I would like to ask is what does the Gen Z protest in Nepal tells us about the evolving role of youth in South Asian politics? Moreover, the role of social media in changing political scape of this region.
No, Gen Z is significant not only in change. Gen Z is significant in your economic development. The demographic bulge which has taken place in a way all around the world, but in South Asia is far more significant. And then they have access to this technology. It's not, social media is one part of it, but this one mobile phone has empowered almost everybody.
True.
And the youth is far more savvy on that. So obviously they are making use of it, and they are critical factors. Communication has always been critical. The people who are not aware of the gap between living standards now all know through your TV, through your mobile phone, through all kind of other informations, globalization, whatever. So many factors have got in. So yes, I think it's a very important factor. The youth have always been important. All revolutions start with the youth, anywhere. So make no mistake, don't neglect them, no complacency needed.
True, sir. So my last question for the day would be, what advice would you give to young scholars of international relations who want to specialize in South Asia?
Well, I want people to be more rigorous. I unfortunately quite frustrated young people looking for careers far more than knowledge. And I come from an age where it was possible to merge career with knowledge. And now they are choosing one. So I think the greatest professor these days is Mr. Google.
True.
People don't read books, they don't read articles, they find short and easy. So, I mean, this is another technology and maybe part of the Gen Z psyche that skip through and go there, which is all right. Many people achieve out of that, but it doesn't make you a solid entity to shape your future and that of your country.
I totally agree, sir. Recently, we were in a discussion with some professor from JNU, and she also said that the level of creativity in research papers is dying day by day.
Social sciences are dying.
So, sir, with that, we come to an end to this amazing discussion with so many insightful thoughts which we carry with us. So, I thank you on behalf of my college, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, and my department for this insightful podcast.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.